Very good. It's 1:30, so we will begin the liquor control agenda for today. We have our newest member joining us today, so if you don't mind at the beginning, first of all, welcome and thank you for volunteering your time, Mark. If you don't mind pressing so it's green, and then you can talk, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Mark Doyle. I've been in the industry 43 years. I was one of those guys that was always sitting back there, and I'm retired now, and I don't think I can remember where there's been someone from the industry on the board and stuff like that. I'm not in the industry, but I still, I'm vested emotionally in the industry, so yeah, maybe I can bring a different perspective.
Thank you much for joining us, Mark, and we appreciate you being here. Very good. So we'll begin the agenda. We have a few items on the agenda. Number one is to approve the minutes of the February 19th, 2025 regular meeting. We have it in front of us if there are any changes or corrections. Otherwise, we will accept a motion.
So move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other changes or corrections or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number two, review liquor applications to a issuance of a Class ABH limited license, TC Lodging LLC, doing business as Spring Hill Suites, located at 3401 Jacks Way South. Steve, to start us off.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner, and welcome, Mark. It's glad to have that additional perspective. Like Mark said, was in the industry a long time before he retired, and I think we've got a great panel now that have a lot of industry experience, and I think that's good. There are certain items that come up that you sometimes need to draw on that history. So, Spring Hill Suites is going to be a limited service hotel, and with those limited service hotels, we have the ABH limited license. What that allows is for the manager specials, so they can, at night they have some hors d'oeuvres, and maybe everybody gets a drink or something like that. And it also allows them to, in their sundry shop, to sell off sale to their hotel guests. We have done the background check, and everything came back as expected, and it does come with a recommendation of approval.
Very good. Are there any questions by anybody in the group? And I guess the police they're not here today, but basically the background check was, I'm sorry. The background check came back clear for the owners, and so I don't think there were any concerns from the law enforcement perspective. Correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, we will accept a motion.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, 2B is the issuance of a Class B limited license to STL of North Dakota Incorporated, doing business as Target Wine and Spirits, to be located at the corner of 38th Street and Alexander Drive South. Steve.
So this is down, I think it's north of the Walmart down on 52nd Avenue. It's down in that area. And I know I was talking to Target for about 9 months, asking me about whether there was any interest in that one license that we had still available. And when I told him that we finally had somebody that was interested, they immediately filed their application. And so, they're looking at an off-sale license. So they know what our rules are and our regulations regarding the 100-foot rule. And they're fully intending to meet that. We're going to have a little discussion a little bit later about conditional licenses and past practice and our policy and some of that kind of stuff. But just taking what we have in front of us, this is a application for an off-sale license, and they've gone through the background check, and there were no issues with that.
So can I ask you a question, Steve? The current Target has they followed the rules, and from my knowledge, I think they've had a pretty good record as far as, and I'm sure they do the same thing where they have to do the training and the police department does periodic checks. So have we had any bad experiences with them?
And not to my knowledge. To my knowledge, they have been fine stewards of the license.
And the other question was, so sometimes big corporations, we have a challenge with contacting them as far as communication with managers and stuff. How has that been okay?
We have not had any issues with communications with Target.
Okay. So that's, from my perspective, that's a good thing. And any questions about this? Go ahead, Bob.
I have a question, Commissioner. Steve, have you seen a floor plan of how the door works, et cetera?
No, not at this point. I think what they're, I'm not sure that they're totally locked in on what that's going to look like yet. I think, before they build a building, they wanted to know that they were going to have a license.
I guess my concern is because the 100-foot rule and the no straight pathway between groceries and liquor, I mean, that's longstanding Fargo ordinance, and I think that's a good thing. However, in Grand Forks, the Super Target has a liquor store, and they kind of bent the rules. I don't know if Grand Forks has different rules, but there's a straight pathway from the grocery store. So, should we approve this before we see a floor plan would be my question, to make sure. My understanding is the Target in town here did it right. You have to leave the Target, go around the corner or whatever to go into the.
And that's the explanation that I provided them, is that as far as I know, I think we're the only ones in North Dakota with that 100-foot rule that says that, you have to be 100 foot from entrance to entrance. And so that probably eliminates some of that, possible mix or blending that we see at some other places.
Can I just say, Bob, to your question? So with the existing store, we worked with them and they followed all the rules. And do you know what I mean? And so they know our expectations. And so I don't anticipate that there would be, especially now, they'll incorporate that in the plans of the building. And so, but from our experience, they didn't ask for any exceptions. They didn't try to change anything. And so I'm very comfortable with, and especially we haven't had any issues with them as being a license holder and following the rules so far. So I guess that's my 2 cents, that they were good corporate citizens. So.
Well, and just to add to that, I think it's important that if that's our law, that we keep that, and because you see exceptions, and I know the industry was quite upset with what Costco did in West Fargo. They've got a cage inside the store. It really was not the separate business model that everybody else was dealing with. So I just want to make sure that, we, stick to that.
I just want to give a real world thing. In Colorado, they've allowed some alcohol in the grocery stores. And then what's happened is it grew and grew. And so now some of the grocery stores, they're starting to reduce the amount of groceries and so the people are pushing back, saying it's kind of gotten to be too far. So I do think, we can learn from other people and the things that go on. So but to me, the rules are the rules, and they followed them without any exceptions. Go ahead, Steve.
Yes, so I did bring up a separate handout for you to kind of follow along with, and it starts on the top there where it says unwritten policy, and the question kind of came up, and we're going to discuss this a little bit later also. But what do you do when you have a like this, where you have a building or somebody that wants to get a liquor license, where they want to provide off sale, or it could be on sale, and they don't want to make that investment in the building before they know that they're going to have that liquor license. And so our past practice, and it's been an unwritten policy, is that we've granted the license without any kind of a conditional license, but we've never applied any conditions other than what's in the ordinance, which says at the time that it's approved, you have to pay 10% down, and within 180 days, you have to pay the balance of the license fee. But there are, it's just something for us to consider, I think, is, at least maybe going forward. Do we want to have some provisions in there on what a conditional license would look like? What would those conditions be? How long can you sit on the license? So, with this Target, I looked on the website today, and they don't have a store listed in North Dakota as a future store. They don't have one listed in Minnesota as a future store either. And so, what does that mean for us? Are we going to say, okay, Target, here's a license, we're going to reserve it for you for whenever you do decide to come, which maybe it's 5 years away. We don't know the answer to that.
So can I ask you, Steve, if we approve this license, but that isn't forever. If they decided not to build that store, then they would not get that license and be able to sell it, correct?
Well, so I guess I'd probably have to defer to, council here, but the ordinance does call for that they would have to pay the fee. And then you're aware of section 251512, where when they're not using the license, they can apply for an exemption of the 251512, which, because otherwise it says that you have to sell alcohol every 30 days or so many days out of every 60 days. And we've done that a number of times. So we just did that with Borrowed Bucks, where they closed the building and then we said, okay, we're going to give you an exemption. So there may be ways for them to hang on to it, but
So Steve, but it would go through us. And
Yes,
so
well,
we could say, if you're
it'd go
not
to
going to
the
build a store, then you don't get to retain the license. So
right,
I
it
think
would go to
it's-
city commission to make those decisions, I think,
So Bob's question about, if we approve it, that isn't an asset that they can sell if they don't use. This is for that store. If they don't build the store, then we would take it back. If that, doesn't that make?
Yes, and it says the fees are non-refundable. So,
Right.
yeah.
So,
And I think I did
go ahead.
see on the website that they were coming. I looked it up on Target. I did see it where it said Fargo.
Do you know how long ago it was?
Yeah, I just saw it this last week. I looked it up on, went onto Target, it said Future Store Fargo.
Okay.
I do not know if it's going to be a super Target, which was kind of a little bit of a question.
Well, and maybe I was in a different
Yeah.
section of their website
Yeah.
because the link I put on the page here, when I looked at it, I didn't see anything. I just looked this morning.
And I happen to live in that area, and I do see movement on that property. So
Okay.
I don't know if that means anything, but there is work being done out there. But I don't think it's going to be necessarily a super Target. I think it might be a smaller format. I don't know for 100%, but I did see it on their website.
Maybe what I was looking at was super targets or something
Yeah,
like
it could
that.
be
That
something.
could be, yeah.
any other comments or questions?
But does it make sense that you would, before somebody wants to invest in a building, that they need to know that they're going to have the license, that, whether it be a restaurant, an off sale, that type of thing,
Right.
So that's kind of been the past practice that we've used.
Steve, are there any proximity clauses to other licenses that are already in that area?
That came up back when Cashwise built next to their store on 13th. And we do not have proximity clauses other than, we make mention of proximity to schools and churches and places where minors may gather and that type of thing. But we've never seen a case where, like proximity to another alcohol selling facility.
Any other questions?
So I'm guessing Walmart will be following down the street here.
Well, right now we have a
Since
cap
they're
on the
in the neighborhood.
licenses, so I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. Any other comments or questions about it? Otherwise, if we're ready to make a motion, do we have a motion?
I'd move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 2C, the issuance of a Class F license to Saul Avenue Kitchen Incorporated, doing business as Nova Eatery and Supper Club, located at 402 Broadway North. Steve?
This is the location of where Burn Bombs was, and they, after they closed, Nikki Berglund and Ryan decided that might be a good spot for them to open their next venture. And so they're excited to get in there and kind of offer something a little bit different for Fargo and for the downtown area. Get activity again in a place that, well, just recently vacated. And so they got their application into us, and we ran it through our normal process, came back with no issues in the background check or the credit history, and comes with a recommendation of approval.
So this is a Class F full alcohol, and so do they have to do anything as far as monitoring the amount of food sold and things like that?
But yes, sir. Their food sales need to exceed their alcohol sales. However, this is a case where the alcohol is mixed and poured in a back room and then brought to a table, and so you don't have that bar feeling. And so typically, we don't see problems at all with meeting that food percentage.
And so if you don't mind me asking, how many of those do we have available if we approve this one?
The F license,
Yeah.
Fs are not capped.
So we have,
It's unlimited.
okay,
We probably have, 15 to 20 of them that are out there and that are active.
okay.
Yeah, this is back when it was open, I used to say, this is the downtown Mexican village, right?
Okay.
Where
Yep.
you could get any kind of alcohol you wanted, but there was no bar, right? So,
Okay. Very good. Any other comments or questions?
I miss Mexican Village. Sorry.
I do too.
Thanks for bumping me out, Steve.
Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, if we're ready, could we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And we're on to 3D, the Police Department Monthly Report and General Report. And we've gotten that sent to us ahead of time, so thank you for doing that. And if you would just kind of give us a quick, and actually, if you don't mind introducing yourself and kind of giving us a quick summary, that'd be great.
Yes, my name is Travis Moser. I'm a lieutenant for Fargo Police Department. Currently oversee our specialized services unit, so filling in today for the chief. Just the data that we have, we had 3 liquor establishment forms filled out. It was on two different establishments, all revolving around disturbances, fights, and 2 of them, well, actually all 3 of them, management of the 2 establishments were very cooperative. Just had to do with people getting into fights either inside or outside the bar.
So can I ask you a question from your perspective? Would you say things are going pretty well as far as with the management of the bars, as far as cooperating with the police?
Yes, I mean, if you look at these, these 2 establishments, being the old Broadway and District 64, complete cooperation from management in all 3 incidents.
That's great. Very good. Any questions or comments? Otherwise, thank you very much. Welcome to the Liquor Control.
All right.
We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
You bet. Very good. We'll move on to 4A, discussion regarding annexation and liquor licenses. And Steve will get us started off with that.
yeah. So this is another case where we have somebody that wants to build a gas station, convenience store, and then they want to have a bottle shop or an off sale kind of go along a full service stop. Their location is in just outside of the city limits. It's not yet annexed, and they're in the area of North Fargo, and so the developers that were working on that project came to us and asked us, how would we go about getting a city license, and we explained that they're capped and all of this kind of stuff. And then there was discussion with the county about, do they get a county license and then get annexed? And then, what happens to the city license? Do they automatically get a city license? So anyway, it just brought up a lot of questions. So I thought I'd give a little bit of history on our licenses. We have caps on 2 of our licenses. So if somebody had a liquor license that was, let's say it was a restaurant bar, or it's, mostly restaurant, and it was outside city limits, and we annexed it, well, it would fit in with our FA license. It really wouldn't be an issue to issue them a city license once they went through the background check and all of that. But with the licenses that we have caps on, which is our Z license, which is the on-sale license, and our B limited license, which is our off-sale license, it kind of poses a little bit of a problem, because if they have a license and they come into the city, and now we don't have a license available, what do we do with that business? We do address parts of the issue in some of our ordinances. When we look at the fees that are involved with the Z license is $115,000. Or it might be 105,000, I might be off. We say that if they've been in existence for 15 years and we annex them, we're not going to charge them that fee again, right? Which kind of makes sense. So, but if it's less than that, then we're going to charge them the city fee. So, there are things like that. When it comes to the population side, we say that if we annex an area, and we include those people that are annexed in our calculation of population, and that makes sense too. But we don't address whether or not that license should automatically be, included. Should we increase our number of licenses available, and some of those types of things. With our 2 licenses that are capped, we add a new license for every 10,000 people. So we just added a license, 1Z and 1B limited in 2023 when the population hit 130,000. And currently, the estimate that we have is 133,000. It's just another consideration again. Like with the last Z license, the person that applied for it and got that license replaced an FA license. So we didn't really even add a new liquor selling establishment. Somebody switched their model so that they don't have to sell as much food. And with the B limited license that we had available or have available, nobody applied for it. And so then it goes out first come, first serve. And so that's why we saw Target applying right now. And so, and again, I mentioned this earlier too, was at the time of approval, the ordinance calls for 10% of the license fee to be paid. So in the case of the B limited, it'd be $8,000, and then the balance within 180 days. But again, there are no provisions on how long they can sit without using that license. Let's see.
Can I just jump in?
Yes,
A couple of
yes.
quick thoughts. So my main thing is I think they should have to pay a fee for that license. The other thing is, the license then will be, it is something that they don't own, like the older ones. And so that's part of it. But the other thing we're concerned about is speculation, that somebody buys something and then in an annex part and then moves that license to another part of town. So I do think we should also restrict that if you have an existing business, the license has to remain at that location for a certain amount of time. The other thing I wanted to say is this is just discussion today. We are not going to act on this today. And so there's people need to think about this, people in the industry and everybody, and we will. This is just something for us to think about and act on in the future. But there's lots of issues there. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but you don't want to damage an existing business, just because they're annexed into the city of Fargo. But you also want to treat them fairly and treat the existing license holders fairly too. So sorry to interrupt you, Steve. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. I probably needed to get my thoughts reset anyway. I did also include a kind of like a spreadsheet. One of the questions that came up, we met internally with the people, the developers, and then we also met with administration, and Commissioner Pepcorn was involved in those discussions. And one of the things that, people said was, well, let's find out what, Grand Forks, Minot, Bismarck, West Fargo, what are they doing? And so everybody, is probably aware, everybody has their own rules and regulations. And so the questions that I had asked were, if you're annexing an existing business or license, is it automatically given a city license? And in West Fargo, their response was that they have to go through an application process. In Bismarck, they just said it wasn't addressed in the ordinance. In Grand Forks, kind of the same thing. And then in Minot, the ordinance essentially says that they're given the license. So if somebody else has approved them, then they must just accept that. The second question I asked, is there an application process? And they all pretty much said yes. Grand Forks said that it would kind of be handled through the planning and zoning process. The third question was, does the length of operation have any impact on the fees? Most said that there were either no additional fees or it wasn't covered in the ordinances. Grand Forks said that there would be a council decision on whether or not there'd be additional fees. On the question of caps on licenses, Grand Forks and West Fargo said there are no caps. Minot does have caps, and Bismarck in certain classes. And then whether or not that would, that had an effect then on the annexation. In Bismarck, they said that they would either have to go out and purchase a private license, or purchase one on the market, or through a bidding process. And then in in Minot, the ordinance allows granting the additional license. So in Minot, they've put it in their ordinance that if they annex somebody that had a license, that they automatically get that license. So, and then the last question I asked was, is there required to be of being in business for a certain amount of time before the license is granted? And so in other words, somebody doesn't go out, get a license quick, and then get annexed right away, and nobody addressed that in their ordinances. So a little bit of research on that. And again, you're completely correct, Commissioner. I'm not looking for any action. Just wanted to start bringing some of these thoughts to the table here. In the packet too, I included a memo kind of addressing this whole thing and coming down to what maybe some of the options might be. One option would be to do nothing and let them go to the market and try to acquire a license. That way, we could modify ordinances to allow for one additional license. We could also allow them to have the next available license. So that would mean when we hit 140,000, we wouldn't have a license to issue because we'd be getting caught up to the licenses that we had. Somebody suggested eliminating the caps on the off-sale licenses. I don't think we'd want to eliminate caps on the on-sale licenses, but that's a consideration too. And then of course there's always other options. I am far from the smartest guy in the room here, so I'm looking for all kinds of advice and ways that we could move forward. And I don't. Whenever possible, we've always tried to accommodate businesses. We're just kind of in a position here where we don't know what the answer should be. So, and if we do bring something back, what we would do is bring a recommendation then to the city commission. And then if the city commission went along with that, then they would direct Nancy to modify any ordinances and do that type of thing.
And so what we'll do is, this is just kind of an introductory thing today, and so it'll be on the agenda for the next meeting. And so it's just kind of the informational, and if you have any comments right now, that'd be great, but we'll have time in the future too. And if you have, the one thing I would say is, I think they should have to go through the application process just because there's such information that the city gets from them as far as communications and things. So to me, that's a mandatory thing. But there's lots of these things that are up to us to debate. And so go ahead, introduce yourself if you don't
Dustin
mind.
Mitzel, Happy Harry's Bottle Shops. I would recommend that actually in between a liquor control board meeting, we have a separate meeting or brown bag or whatever you want to call it, because we've sat on these over the last 20 years, and there's a lot of complexities and a lot of cause and effect when we make these decisions. And sometimes there's a lot of financial pain on businesses like ours that went out to the open market, played by the rules, and then somebody else was allowed to come in and make a law change or an ordinance change. So I would recommend some kind of working meeting to discuss all this before we get back to.
That sounds great. And so what we'll do is we'll have Steve facilitate that, and whoever anybody here would be welcome to attend. I'll attend for sure, and so we'll do that. I think that's a great idea. But the other thing is the members of the public and everybody can. This is something for everyone to think about, kind of what direction we want to go, and this is kind of just the introductory thoughts, and so.
And I will add one final comment here. It's, I've been here since 2000, a little bit before that. And during that time, a little over 25 years, we've had 39 annexations. And, here we are with a new circumstance that we've never faced before. So I don't know that, it's something necessarily that people are going to run out and, scoop up licenses from the county. When you think about it, there's the counties, typically when we're doing greenfield development, that type of thing, there's nothing there. There are no roads, there's no water, there's no sewer. You can't just get a license. The county had a very difficult time trying to figure out how to handle this because they have an 8-step process, and they could only get to step 3 before the business had to make some decisions, and so the county did come up with a conditional way of applying for this license, but they're not going to give them the license until they meet all 8 steps. So first steps here were just to kind of plant the seed, start thinking, and we'll move forward from there.
We had discussed a while back at one of our meetings, talking about revamping some of the structures of penalties for businesses too. So if we're going to be discussing something like this related to the ordinances, I think it may be useful for us to also hear the perspectives from the business owners on something like that. And so if we notice it on more of those general discussions about things that may be going on, I would enjoy hearing the business owners' perspectives on issues like that.
That's great. Very good. Any other comments or questions? So basically what we'll have is Steve will, the existing owners, Steve will set something up, and then we'll send out invitations so everyone is aware of it, and everyone will be welcome to attend if you want to, if that's okay. Any other comments or questions about the topic? Otherwise, we'll move on to 4B, server training compliance update.
Yeah, again, I've been a little remiss on getting this moved along. I do have a list of from the auditing firm, and I've done a preliminary review of that list, and so I will try to move that a little bit forward. But I thought, just to let you know that we are moving forward with that process. So,
can I ask you? So we've kind of made a change, and who's responsible for doing the updates, and how would you say it's going?
It seems like people need a little reminder every now and then to be watching that. So the businesses that are good about it are really good about it. The ones that are, kind of let it slide and forget about it, they're not as good about it. So, but we're gonna start addressing that. I've got about a dozen or so, maybe 15 out of the 70 that need some review work. Some of them didn't reply at all, and so maybe when we, get the reply and the response from them, we'll have a better idea.
But we did make a change, and now they are accountable for
Yes.
monitoring it. And so I do think it's taken a while for people, but I do think if you want to send a reminder, I think that's great, and say how important it is, because that's That's part of the reason that they have a liquor license, and if they don't follow it, then they're gonna have penalties, so,
Yep,
okay.
very good.
Very good. Any other comments? We've welcomed our new member. It's a beautiful afternoon, so it's 2:04, so we will adjourn. Thank everybody for attending and have a good afternoon.